to today's Chumash. Let's go to today's Chumash, and I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. Okay, so today is Monday, the second portion for the Parsha Vayechi. By the way, it's the last Torah portion in of this whole first Chumash. So the last big Parsha, grand finale, ending of everything we've been learning. We've been starting from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the forefathers. We started from actually Adam and Eve, and we learned about Noach. Then we went to Abraham, all in great detail for the life of Abraham, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And finally, we're heading towards the end of the first book, which is going to end with the passing of Yaakov. So ve'enei Yisrael kavdu mizaykan. The eyes of Israel became heavy with age, right? That's normal. What happens when people get old? And obviously, la yuchlu lirois, he couldn't see, so he couldn't really see well. And we learned in yesterday's Chumash that Yosef had brought his two sons, whose names were Menashe and Ephraim, to his father to bless them. So he drew them near to him. He put them next to his father. Yishak lahem, and Zaydi Yaakov kisses them. Chabik lahem, and he hugs them, he embraces them, and he gives his two grandchildren there a kiss and a hug. So this Yosef, the viceroy of Egypt, is bringing his two children to his Zayda, to his father, their grandfather, in order for him to hug them and kiss them. But Yomer Yisrael, Yosef, he's going to ask for a blessing. So Yisrael says to Yosef, he says, this is a very special moment in life. He says, it's shocking that we're even here today, because I could not even entertain in my mind a possibility that I would even see you. I mourned your death for 22 years. It did not even enter my mind that I would even see you, my son. I thought that was it. It was over. I will never see my son again. And here we are. God is showing me your children, my grandchildren, the offsprings of that son who I never even imagined that I would ever in my life see. He says Yaakov is, it's an unbelievable moment in life. He's telling his son Yosef that we're at right now. I never imagined in my wildest dreams. I couldn't even expect or think a possibility that I would see you. And here we are, and I'm seeing my grandchildren. So he takes his two children that he just gave to his father to hug, and he kissed them. He puts them back in order to set them up to get the blessing. And Rashi tells us, how do you give a blessing? So he says that he's going to put the older one by Yaakov's right hand and the younger one by Yaakov's left hand. You always know, tzaddik, everything the righteous man does is exact and detailed. And rightfully so, he's going to put the older, the Bechor, the firstborn, by Yaakov's right hand, and the younger one by his left hand. And as he's backing up from his father, setting up his children to get the blessing from dad, from their grandfather, he bows out of respect to his father. So Yosef takes both of them, as I'm saying. It's Ephraim b'yaminoi, Yisma Yisrael. It takes the younger one, Ephraim, in Yosef's right hand, which is the left hand of Yaakov. That's Menashe b'smoil mimin Yisrael, and he takes Menashe, the older one, in his left hand, which is his father's right hand. Right? Whenever you're facing someone, your right is to the other person's left. So he's taking the older one in his left hand, so it should be on his father's right hand. And he comes to his father and says, here, bless my two children. Now, if you remember from Chumash in the previous day, we learned that there was a special bond between the younger one, Ephraim, and his grandfather, Yaakov. There was a special bond between that grandson. The younger grandson was closer to Yaakov. He always learned Torah by his grandfather. He had a special connection with the grandfather. Sometimes the grandchild has a special connection with the grandfather. The holy giant Yaakov had a special connection with this special boy. So what does his grandfather? What does the grandfather do? Yisrael stuck out his hand, and he crisscrossed his hands. He did not follow what his son Yosef was trying to do. Yosef was trying to set up the older one by Yaakov's right hand and the younger one by his left hand. So the grandfather says, I know what's going on, and he does the opposite of what his son tried to do. He sends out his hand, but Yashes al Reish Ephraim, and he sticks his right hand on the younger one, Ephraim. Who at Sawyer, Besmoile al Reish Mashin, puts his left hand on the older one. Shikal as Yadav, he guided his hands deliberately, specifically, smartly, ki Menashe Bechar, because even though Menashe is the firstborn and anybody would have naturally done that, he says, no, this is not what's happening. He switches the hand. Vayevarech es Yosef, Vayomer, and he gives Yosef his son a blessing. And he says, and this is very famous because these are probably the most famous blessing in the Torah that a father gives his sons. And it all comes from here. This is where it comes from. The most famous blessing when a parent wants to bless his child. Whenever I go to my father on Yom Kippur and he gives me a blessing, and some parents bless their children every Friday, and some parents bless their children always, but specifically before Yom Kippur, they always say this blessing that Yaakov is going to give his son Yosef and his grandchildren. So Yaakov blesses Yosef, and he says, Yosef, God, before who walked Avraham and Yitzchak, my grandfather Avraham and my father Yitzchak, the God who took care of me, sustained me. Yaakov says, I had this miraculous life that God always took care of me. From the beginning till today. Hamalach Hagoyel Oisi is so many famous songs in these words. The angel that protected me, Mikolra, from any bad happening. There were so many parts of my life where I was in such dangerous situations, and the angel, I had a guardian angel that protected me my whole life, which is obviously Hashem protected me through this guardian angel. Yivarech Hasana Ardim should bless these children, these young children, my grandchildren that are standing in front of me. Yikare behem shemi, and that my name should be called upon them. B'shem avos, in the name of my fathers. They continue the lineage and the name of me and my grandfather and my father Avram and Yitzchak. V'yidgu l'roi b'kerev haaretz, and may they, like fish, populate. May these two little boys here become giant, mighty nations like fish. May they fill the land in their midst like fish, fill the sea. That's how much these two little boys that are standing in front of me should become. So Yaakov says, I always had this angel that came to me, the guardian angel that protected me, Rashi says, and may this angel continue to be with these grandchildren. And they should multiply and become this tremendous mighty nation, a beautiful blessing that Avraham is blessing Yaakov is blessing his grandchildren. Now, just one more thing. Rashi says, or actually someone sent me a text, that the greatest thing a father wants in life is that his children should continue to follow in his good ways. That's the greatest blessing, the nachas that we have from our kids. There's no greater blessing that a person can have in life. Like we spoke about yesterday, that children should follow the path of Torah and mitzvahs that their father set out. So that's it, short chumash today. Basically, the blessing and the switching of the hands that Ephraim and Menashe. Now, Yosef in tomorrow's chumash is going to object to what his father did. He says, Dad, what are you doing? Why are you switching your hands? And obviously it has a lot of connotation and meaning behind it, and he's very scared of it, but we'll learn about that tomorrow. Any questions or comments on today's chumash? No, we good? Clear, straightforward, every good? We have all the scholars in the class today. No one has any questions. Okay, fine. Continuing along. Say it now or hold your peace. Okay. Continuing right along to today's Tanya.